All right, following Wednesday's sports wagering action, we're now 6-0 in our last 6 board member tier package bets on Pt.1. And the link for today's board member tier package bet is in the description section below. $1,000 bettors are up over $5,400 during that span. Now, the board member tier is an all-inclusive package that I offer on my website. And not only do you get access to my board member tier package bet itself, you're also going to get access to every single bet that I give out on that webpage all the way through the end of February. Now, if you're not signed up for that package, or if you have no idea what I'm talking about, I'm going to explain a little bit more about it in just a moment. But before we go ahead and move on, just want to take a quick timeout and welcome you to the video. My name is Brock Page, and I do sports picks for free right here on YouTube. I also sell my personal bets on BrockPage.com. And I have packages on that website starting at just $1.99. Now, the purpose of these YouTube videos is to provide you with free informational sports betting content. And it's also designed to generate interest in signing up for a membership on my website. Now, you may be wondering what the difference is between what I do here on YouTube and what I do on my webpage. Well, what I do here on YouTube is I'll handicap the entire slate of games in any given sport, side and total. And what I do on my website is, well, I actually share with you which one of these free YouTube picks on my channel that I'm actually betting on personally. And with that, guys, let's go ahead and dive into some free NBA content here. We're going to go ahead and start with the Raptors taking on the Hornets. And that's going to be a 7 o'clock Eastern start time. Toronto's -1.5 with the total at 225. Now, the Raptors got the W in 9 out of their last 11 ball games. And they're actually doing a real nice job covering the point spread on the road this year. Toronto's covering in over 64% of their contests when traveling. And they're also in the top 10 in the association in fewest points allowed per contest. Now, scoring-wise, Pascal Siakam's averaging over 21.5 points per contest, along with 8 boards and 5 assists. Meanwhile, Freddie VanVleet, he's making over 40% of his three-pointers. He's also scoring 21.5 points a game. Now, when it comes to head-to-head meetings in this one, well, these guys are averaging 114 points per contest in their last 10 games against Charlotte. And speaking of the Hornets on the other side of things, well, what the heck happened to them? These guys lost their last 3 straight heading into the break. They also failed to cover the point spread in 11 out of their last 13. Now, the Hornets' biggest problem this season has been their defensive play, or lack thereof. These guys allow 115 points a game, and they're also dead last in the league in home defensive boards. So although, these guys can be really fun to watch on TV or in person, not a well-rounded ball club. And they just, simply put, they give up way too many points. Now, injury-wise, Martin and McDaniels are questionable for the Hornets. Hayward's also still out with that ankle injury. When it comes to the total in this one, 3 out of Charlotte's last 4 ball games got over the posted number. The Hornets also saw 7 out of their last 10 get over the line as well. Meanwhile, the Raptors on the other side of things, they saw 5 out of their last 9 get over the posted total themselves. I'm going to lean toward Toronto -1.5 and the over 225. Next matchup, it is going to be Spurs versus the Wizards, 7 p.m. Eastern start time. San Antonio's -1.5, totals 224 and a hook. But despite being the slight favorite on the road here, San Antonio is winning only 40% of their contests away from home this season. And they're also amongst the worst defensive rebounding teams in the NBA. San Antonio is currently in the bottom 3 in road defensive rebounding, and they actually give up the majority of their points in the second quarter. Now, they're taking on a rebuilding Washington team who's still winning 50% of their home games this year, despite their struggles, despite their personnel changes. So it's a team who isn't great right now, but I wouldn't say they're hapless. This is a team that can still win games on their home court. Matter of fact, the Wizards, they got the W in three out of their last 5 contests at any location, and they're actually in the top 10 in the NBA in fourth quarter scoring. So these guys are always alive. You can't count them out because they do the majority of their scoring late in games. Kyle Kuzma, he's averaging over 16 points a game for Washington, along with 8 rebounds and 3 assists. Meanwhile, KCP's scoring nearly a dozen points a game himself. He's also averaging 3 rebounds a game. And when it comes to the injury report, Porzingis is questionable for the Wizards. Meanwhile, for San Antonio on the other side, Jones is questionable with a knee. Now, total-wise, 3 out of the Spurs' last 4 ball games got over the posted number. They're also 80% to the over in their last 10 meetings with Washington. Meanwhile, the Wizards, on the other side of things, they've gone 4-2 to the over in their last 6 outings themselves. I'm going to lean toward Washington plus 1.5, and the over 224 and a hook. Next contest, it is going to be Thunder versus the Pacers, 7 p.m. Eastern tip-off. Indiana's -7 at home, totals 216.5. And despite the Pacers' hardships this season, they still covered in their last 2 straight, and they also have a winning record against the point spread at home. And speaking of home games, the Pacers are currently in the top 10 in the league in scoring per contest on their home court. Malcolm Brogdon's averaging 18.5 points per contest, along with 5 boards and 5 assists. Meanwhile, Tyrese Halliburton scoring over 20.5 points per contest through 4 ball games with the Pacers. And speaking of shooting the basketball, Indiana's currently in the top 10 in the association in offensive field goal percentage at home. Now they're taking on a Thunder team who's going to be in the second of a back-to-back here on Friday. They've also been terrible with the ball in their hands. These guys are dead last in scoring on average per contest. And they also rank dead last in shooting from the field. Now, injury-wise, Williams, Jerome, Dort, Robinson Earl, and Muscala, they're all out for OKC. Meanwhile, for the Pacers on the other side of things, Duarte is still out indefinitely for them. Batazzi is also questionable. Now, total-wise, Indiana's gone 80% to the over in their last 10 outings. They've also seen a bunch of overs at the Gainbridge Fieldhouse. They're actually 20-11 to the over this year in front of their home fans. Meanwhile, OKC on the other side of things, they saw overs recently against the likes of San Antonio, New York, and Toronto. I'm going to lean toward Indiana -7 and the over 216.5. And with that, we're going to jump into our next and final matchup for our Part 1 video. It is going to be Rockets versus the Magic, 7 o'clock Eastern tip-off. Orlando is -4 at home with the total at 228.5. And although the Rockets are a little banged up here, it's Orlando who's been terrible at home this season. They're just 5-21 straight up at the Amway Center, and they went 26% against the point spread in those home games. The Magic's currently 34 games below 500 for the entire season right now. And they're also dead last in shooting the 3 ball at home. And speaking of home games, Orlando scores only 101 points per contest in front of their home fans. And they also find themselves in the bottom 3 in home offensive rebounding. Now they're taking on a Houston team who's been pretty bad recently themselves, not really going to sugarcoat it there. Although Houston did cover the point spread recently against the likes of Phoenix and Cleveland. And speaking of covering the number, well, the Rockets are actually covering the point spread in 50% of their road games this year, believe it or not. Now, when it comes to offensive production, Christian Wood is averaging 17.5 points per contest, along with double-digit rebounds. Meanwhile, Jalen Green's averaging over 14.5 points a game himself, along with 3 boards and a couple assists. Now, when it comes to the scoring in this one, the Rockets are actually in the top 5 in the NBA in fourth quarter scoring on the road, so these guys are always alive. That back door is always open with regard to Houston. Now, injury-wise, Gordon, Porter, and Garuba, they are all listed as questionable. Meanwhile, for Orlando, Wagner is still questionable for them. When it comes to the total in this one, the Magic saw unders recently with the likes of Utah, Portland, and Boston. Meanwhile, the Rockets on the other side of things, they saw unders recently with the Pelicans, Spurs, and Warriors. I'm going to lean toward Houston +4. And the under 228.5. And with that, guys, that's going to do it for me. Be on the lookout here for our part 2 video, coming up in the next couple of hours or so. But anyway, guys, if you were thinking about signing up for a membership on my website, just keep in mind, you're going to get billed the day you sign up and then the first of every month following that. So if you do end up getting a membership here today on BrockPage.com, you are going to get access to that content through the end of February. Although I do tell folks in every single video, the earlier in the month you sign up, the better. Once again, guys, if you want to get access to every single pick that I give out on my webpage, you're going to want to sign up for my board member tier pick. But most importantly, guys, got to thank you for joining me right here on YouTube. Really hope you enjoyed all this great free content, all this great free information. And with that said, guys, happy Thursday or Friday to you, depending on when you're watching this. Best of luck to you. I look forward to seeing you later on today on my website at BrockPage.com.